Good morning, everybody. If we could find our seats, we're about ready to get started on what promises to be a fantastic Friday. Indeed, it is a good morning. The 55 freeway was forgiving for a Friday, and the I-5 up to Catella moved nice and smooth. Thank you to anybody in the room who contributed to my nice commute here today to the Disneyland Hotel. Absolutely, thank you. Welcome to the 13th Annual Mobility 21 Summit. I am so pleased to be your MC. I like to think of it much more as your subway conductor to get us from this morning all the way through this afternoon. I'm delighted to be here and participate in this amazing transportation summit. First, I want to thank the Mobility 21 partners for all the hard work they do on behalf of this great region known as Southern California. There's the Automobile Club of Southern California, the Chambers of Commerce of Alliance of Ventura and Santa Barbara counties, Greater Riverside Chambers of Commerce, Inland Empire Economic Partnership, Los Angeles Area Chamber of Commerce, the Los Angeles County Metropolitan Transportation Authority, the Orange County Business Council, the Orange County Transportation Authority, Riverside County Transportation Commission, San Bernardino Associated Governments, the Southern California Association of Governments, the Ventura County Transportation Commission, Mobility 21's advisory board members, and you, the members of Mobility 21. Give everybody and yourselves a big round of applause. Together, we are truly one region, one voice, and one future. As we look to our transportation needs and opportunities, this year's theme is very, very appropriate. Embracing our transportation future, uniting business, communities, and innovation. We have gathered over 22 different speakers for our general sessions and 39 speakers for today's breakout sessions to talk about just that. How our business and communities can partner to drive innovation, which will be the key to our transportation success and, frankly, the success of the economy in this great region. I would like to thank our sponsors, without whom this event and this summit certainly would not be possible. This year's presenting sponsor is CH2M Hill. This morning's opening session sponsors are Parsons, Brinkerhoff, and UPS. Thank you to all of our other sponsors and supporting organizations whose names you see listed on the screens before you. Thank you also to all of you for your support. By investing time to give a Friday to be here represents and demonstrates the concern, the passion, and the care you have about this vital topic known as transportation. Now I'd like to introduce a group of very important individuals in the room today, our elected officials from across the region who work so tirelessly for transportation. Please kindly hold your applause to the end. I've just been handed a list. So as I mention your name, please stand. We're going to applaud everyone at the end. And please, apologies in advance for any mispronunciations. First, the Honorable Arthur Brown, Mayor Pro Tem, the City of Buena Park. The Honorable Lou Correa, Senator, California State Senator. Doug Drummond, President of the Port of Long Beach Board of Harbor Commissioners. Jackie DuPont Walker, Director, Los Angeles County Metropolitan Transportation Authority. The Honorable Gail Eastman, Council Member, City of Anaheim. The Honorable Margaret Finlay, Council Member, City of Duarte. The Honorable Joseph Gonzalez, Mayor Pro Tem, City of El Monte. The Honorable Jim Janney, Mayor, City of Imperial Beach. The Honorable Jeffrey Lalloway, Mayor Pro Tem, the City of Irvine. The Honorable Larry McCollin, Mayor Pro Tem, City of Highland. The Honorable Keith Millhouse, Council Member, City of Moorpark. The Honorable Al Murray, Mayor, the City of Tustin. The Honorable Frank Navarro, Council Member, City of Colton. The Honorable Pam O'Connor, Mayor, City of Santa Monica. Fran Inman, Commissioner, California Transportation Commission. The Honorable Gary Ovet, Supervisor, 4th District, County of San Bernardino. The Honorable Sam Pedroza, Board Member, Foothill Gold Line. The Honorable John Perez, Speaker Emeritus, California State Assembly. The Honorable Miguel Polito, Mayor, City of Santa Ana. The Honorable Janice Rutherford, Supervisor, County of San Bernardino. The Honorable Darrell Steinberg, Senate President Pro Tem, the California State Senate. The Honorable Jess Talamantes, Council Member, City of Buena Park. The Honorable Van Tanner, Mayor, City of Palm Desert. Jim White, Commissioner, Ventura County Transportation Commission, Board Member. And finally, the Honorable Todd Spitzer, here from Orange County. Ladies and gentlemen, give everybody a big hand. We do thank very much the elected officials for joining us today. I'm not sure who's running the governments of Southern California. They're all here today, right? But we do appreciate everything you do to improve mobility in our region. If you are tweeting today's summit, and of course social media is such a big part of our world today, please use this. The hashtag is Mobility21. Also jump onto Mobility21's fabulous mobile web app, if you haven't already, to get the most up-to-minute information and share feedback, connect with other conference goers here today, and most importantly, make your voice heard with our legislators. So, to get things started this morning, it is my great pleasure to introduce Paul Bonillo, President and CEO of the Inland Empire Economic Partnership and Chairman of Mobility 21. Please welcome Paul to the podium.
4.3 million people in the Inland Empire. Not quite Irvine, okay? You guys can't have everything.
Go ahead, raise it up so I get better light.
Let's, would you help me in thanking Steve Chern from Freedom Communications for being our MC today? So good morning, my name is Paul Bonillo. I am the President and CEO of the Inland Empire Economic Partnership. And this year I serve as Chair of the Board of Directors of Mobility 21. And on behalf of my fellow members of the board, our advisory board members, we want to thank all of you for taking time to be here today. This conference is about transportation. It's about transportation in Southern California. And I see no other organization as committed to bringing people together, from agency people, business, community, and elected officials, to focus on the needs, the transportation needs of the residents of Southern California. From all of the counties, Imperial, Riverside, San Bernardino, San Diego, Orange, Los Angeles, Ventura, you have people who are dedicated to ensuring that we have regional solutions for our transportation needs, and that we are working actively to make sure that we are finding ways to fund those needs. And so we are very grateful to you for being here today. I want to challenge you. Most of you live in the transportation world, and we have a tendency to stay within our own. But I think we need to go outside the choir, because as our region continues to grow, as the use of trains and the expansion of our freeway system and other modes of transportation are coming online, we need to be making the case to our friends and our families and our co-workers. Only then will we be able to go to our local elected officials and talk to them about why there is a need to stagger lights so that people can travel faster through cities. Only then, when we, together with our family and friends and community members, will we be able to go to Congress and say it is time to pass a comprehensive transportation bill, a bill that allows business to feel secure and to invest in the transportation needs of the future. So while we can have a tendency to stay amongst our own, the future of transportation and making sure that we are providing the best system possible for Southern California requires us to talk to others. And so please, as you hear about so many good opportunities, so many good innovations in today's conference, take that information and share it with others. Now, the Board of Mobility 21 is made up of business organizations, regional business organizations, and the heads of our transportation agencies. And these are people very committed to the mission of Mobility 21 and to making sure that the best transportation system exists in Southern California. And so it's my pleasure now to invite them to come to the stage and join me. The Vice Chair of Mobility 21, the CEO of the Los Angeles County Metropolitan Transportation Authority, Mr. Art Leahy. In her car and on her way, and she's from Orange County. The President and CEO of the Orange County Business Council, Lucy Dunn. The Executive Director of the Ventura County Transportation Commission, Darren Kettle. The Government Affairs Manager of the Automobile Club of Southern California, Steve Finnegan. The CEO of the Orange County Transportation Authority, Daryl Johnson. The President and CEO of the Oxnard Chamber of Commerce, Nancy Lindholm. The Executive Director of the Riverside County Transportation Commission and Mayor. Not with us today, but the President and CEO of the Greater Riverside Chambers of Commerce, Cindy Roth. The President and CEO of the Los Angeles Area Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Gary Tobin. And in sartorial splendor, the Executive Director of the San Bernardino Association of Governments, Ray Wolf. The Executive Director of the Southern California Association of Governments, Hassan Igrata. Now later in the afternoon, we're going to be thanking our former Executive Director, Marnie Primmer. But at our, any of you who've ever chaired an organization, you really don't want this to happen. So at the January meeting, Marnie tells us, I've got a great opportunity, I'm going to move on, right? This is my first meeting as chair. Hassan looks at me at the end of the meeting and he says, Paul. Well, in the meanwhile, since January, I think the board of directors has done a wonderful job. And that's in finding a new executive director to lead Mobility 21. And we are pleased to introduce to you the new executive director of Mobility 21, Jenny Larios.
Right, you catch that screen. Oh, right. Now you go. See? But if you catch that screen, you're going to get like this. I know.
Would you please help me in giving a round of applause to the leadership of Mobility 21? Once again, I want to thank you all for being here. And Daryl, it's my pleasure to bring to the podium Daryl Johnson, the Chief Executive Officer of the Orange County Transportation Authority. Daryl has been in that position supervising 1,500 employees and running an agency with a budget of more than $1 billion for a year and a half. He's been with OCTA for more than 10 years, and he brings more than 20 years of experience in running transportation programs in several states. Please welcome Daryl Johnson.
Good morning, and when Commissioner Lucy Dunn arrives, let's all give her a hard time for not leaving early enough, because we know the freeway system is working perfect in Orange County. So it truly is an honor to host Mobility 21 in the County of Orange and here in the City of Anaheim. But this morning, it's my pleasure to introduce the Vice Chair of the Orange County Transportation Authority Board of Directors, Jeff Lalloway. Jeff is currently the Mayor Pro Tem in the City of Irvine and has been on the Orange County Transportation Authority Board since 2012. In addition to his service on the OCTA Board, he is a member and serves on the Orange County Sanitation District, the Orange County Housing Advisory Committee, the Orange County Fire Authority, the Irvine Education Partnership, and the Newport Bay Watershed Advisory Executive Committee. But more importantly, from a transportation standpoint, Vice Chair Lalloway has made it his absolute focus to ensure that our promise to the taxpayers with our local sales tax measure is kept under all circumstances. That's a critical part of what we do when we talk about raising funding for transportation at the local level. Although he's the city representative on the OCTA board from the 3rd District representing Irvine and other cities in that area, he truly does have a regional hat as he thinks about transportation issues that affect our region. So it's my pleasure to introduce the OCTA board Vice Chair, Jeff Lalloway.
Good morning. In Irvine, we're not yet at 4.3 million, but we're working on it at cities. So hopefully by the afternoon, we'll get 4.3 million people living there. Good morning and welcome to the 13th Annual Southern California Transportation Summit. As Darrell said, I'm Jeff Lalloway, Vice Chairman of the Board of the Orange County Transportation Authority, and it is my honor to welcome you to Orange County this morning. This year's summit includes an impressive agenda from a diverse group of knowledgeable transportation professionals, community leaders, and elected officials. And I hope you find your time here today to be both educational and thought-provoking. I'm proud, very proud, that Orange County is a part of this collaborative effort. This regional collaboration has played a vital role in delivering major transportation projects. This summit provides a continued opportunity for sharing information and new ideas among our stakeholders. These efforts help to enhance the overall transportation infrastructure, ensure future economic opportunities, and improve the quality of life for residents of our region. As Southern California's leading transportation advocacy group, Mobility 21, is becoming a more effective organization each and every year. This region is the most important in the country for movement of goods, for air quality, and for metropolitan mobility. To address these challenges, we need a vision that is truly regional. However, each local agency has a voice that can be part of the solution. I applaud each one of you for being here today and your continued commitment to fulfilling the mission of Mobility 21. Please enjoy your summit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. I get to do double duty today and introduce an outstanding individual that is focused on keeping Orange County moving for a number of years in a variety of roles. This is Senator Lou Correa. He has spent 16 years as a tireless leader and a champion for Orange County taxpayers that has significantly contributed to the quality of life in Orange County on a number of fronts, but today we're going to talk about transportation. In those years, he served in a multitude of roles, including Assembly Member, State Senator, Orange County Supervisor, and most importantly to me, a member of the Orange County Transportation Authority Board of Directors. Throughout his tenure in both the Senate and the Assembly, he's authored key bills for the transportation industry. Later this afternoon, you're going to hear a bit about tolling and pricing and a number of other ways on innovative project delivery. In 2002, Senator Correa authored AB 1010, which enabled the transfer of the 91 express lanes from the private sector to OCTA. I'm proud to say that today, a decade later, the 91 express lanes is the most highly rated single asset toll lane in the country, enjoying a AA- rating by Standard & Poor's. And we couldn't have done it without the work that Senator Correa put in place more than a decade ago. This purchase of the toll lanes has allowed us to make significant improvements for the traveling public, both in the general purpose lanes and the express lanes. And as a result, we've been able to take more than $13 million of excess toll revenue and invest it right back into the 91 corridor. But that wasn't enough for Senator Correa. In 2008, he authored Senate Bill 1316, which authorized the extension of the 91 express lanes into Riverside County, essentially passing that torch of success eastward into a growing urban area. Senator Correa has been a strong advocate for transportation funding, CEQA reform, in the use of alternative project delivery. This includes a recent co-authoring role of AB 401 last year, which allows for the use of design build authority in the state of California. It's a groundbreaking bill. We can't wait to use it, and we can't thank Senator Correa enough for his co-author on that. We're proud of his commitment to bringing transportation solutions to Orange County, and it's my distinct pleasure to introduce Senator Correa.
Good morning, everyone. Buenos dias. Good morning. Come on. Good morning. There's 1,000 of you out there, I understand. You got to make a little more noise than that. First of all, I want to welcome all of you to my hometown, Anaheim, heart of the 34th district. Happiest place on earth, of course, here in Disneyland. At least I think so. And before we get started, I want to make sure that, again, we want to thank our hosts today. Without their generous support, of course, this couldn't happen today. I also want to thank all of the elected officials that are here today. Thank you very much. I'd also like to recognize, of course, those that have flown from far and come here today. Assembly Speaker Emeritus John Perez. John, if you're out there, welcome, sir. Thanks for round of applause. My fellow Anaheim High School alumni, Assembly Member Tom Daly. Tom, are you anywhere here? Good morning, Tom. Assemblymember Quirk Silva, I just saw her walking in, welcome. Bonnie Lowenthal, Assemblymember 70th District, Chair of the Assembly Transportation Committee, LA Mayor and Chair of the LA MTA, Mayor Eric Garcetti, Irvine Mayor, of course, Mr. Walloway. And also want to take a moment to especially thank my hermano, my colleague, who served with me in the legislature for 14 years, my boss, the Senate Pro Tem, Mr. Darrell Steinberg. Darrell, are you here? Please stand, give your round of applause. Darrell. I tell you, there's one person that's done more for public policy in the state of California, it's Darrell. And Darrell, you and I served in some of the toughest times in the state of California. And now that it's getting good, we gotta leave. There's just no justice in this world, I'll tell you. But, you know, we've lived some interesting times. When it comes to transportation policy, I'm reminded when I look at all of the elected officials here, the elected local officials, is transportation policy is really local transportation, is what it's all about. It's fixing the potholes. That's where it begins. All of us at home, even at the state level, I get phone calls about potholes in my area, and of course the locals do too. Darrell Johnson gave me a nice introduction, really talked about my work on the toll roads way back when, almost 10, 12 years ago. And the way my work started on toll roads, again, it was a local issue. Actually went back to the mid-90s. You guys remember when Governor Wilson was around? We had what was called a budget deficit, another budget deficit. We had to find a way to fix and pay for transportation policy. So in those days, a decision was made in Sacramento to come up with 4 private toll roads, very innovative for the state of California. One of those toll road authorities was going to be the 91 freeway. So in those days, about $100 million was invested by a private company to build the 91 toll roads. I'll tell you, whoever the attorney was that was working for that private company has to get an A, because the anti-compete clause that was put on the 91 freeway, 91 toll road was excellent. So when Caltrans, responding to the local constituents saying 91 is a bottleneck, Caltrans tried to go in there and restripe that freeway. So what did that mean? It meant that we violated the no-compete clause. For a number of years and a few careers going out the door, the decision was made that we had to buy out that toll road. So that $100 million investment by that private company turned to about a 130 plus profit, 130 million profit about 2 years later. Great investment. But what it did do is when I passed legislation, really what we did was to enable OCTA to collect tolls and therefore bond those tolls so we come up with the money to buy the toll roads. But I have to say, such a simple solution was very difficult, because in those days, what did that mean? It meant regional solution. Orange County Transportation had to deal with our then nemesis to the east of us, Riverside Transportation. And in those days, Riverside and Orange County didn't work well together. If I can begin to tell you, if I had another hour of all the meetings we had with the legislators from Riverside being so suspicious about what Orange County was trying to do and what we were trying to pull over them. About a year later, it happened. We actually got the deal through. The toll road, AB 1010, became a reality. We were able to collect toll roads, bond, and we're able to purchase that toll road for about $200-some-odd million. If you look at that toll road today, it's probably worth $400 to $500 million on a net present value. But it's not the investment, it's really the utility that it's had for people in Riverside, people in Orange County. A few years later, when Riverside wanted the ability to actually collect tolls on their side and build some express lanes, toll lanes on their side, that was the easiest bill I had ever carried. It was actually very anticlimactic, because thinking back to AB 1010, I thought, here comes another ass kicking. But it was a very, very smooth transition when it came to that legislation. Why? Because I think all of us had then got to the point where we realized that transportation issues and solutions, not about Anaheim, not about Orange County, but they're actually regional. And I think all of us, if we roll up our sleeves, sit down and try to figure out how to put these solutions together, they actually work. In conclusion, let me say I welcome all of you today. I understand you're going to be looking at some good solutions, the best practices, so to speak, that the state has to offer. But I'm really excited to see what other creative solutions you all come up with, because the state of California is relying on folks like you here today, elected engineers, transportation companies, to figure it all out for us. And I think we can. The Golden State is relying on you. So again, thank you very much for being here today. Enjoy, and please do not forget to invest in our local economy. Thank you very much.
Once again, Lou Correa, give him a big hand. Thank you very much. I would now like to invite Hassan Ikrada, Executive Director of the Southern California Associated Governments, to the podium. Hassan?
Good morning to all of you. I'm Hassan Ikrada, the Executive Director of SCAG, Southern California Association of Governments. I'm going to introduce a man that probably needs no introduction. He is Senator Darrell Steinberg. He, by far, one of the leaders who participated in turning the state around. He's a friend of the SCAG region. He came several times to speak to the board of SCAG, several times to speak to a regional setting, to the economic setting. He authored a bill called SB 375, which frankly changed the discussion in the state of California of how we're going to behave as we grow up moving forward. And I can tell you that that leadership turned around the discussion to the better. He's the man who's pretty much going to very soon talk to you about how he's going to bring the money to the regions to make sure that the bill he authored and was signed into law in 2008 is real. I am honored to introduce to you Senator Darrell Steinberg. I'm honored to be able to call him my friend.
Thank you very much, Hassan, for the kind introduction, and more importantly, for the leadership you have shown in implementing SB 375. When SCAG passed the Southern California region's SB 375 plan unanimously, I knew we had a winner here. And it's due to you and the leadership of your incredible board, and also the recognition that while we must grow in a sustainable way, in a different way. And so I thank you. I want to say what an honor it is for me to be here with you today, to be here with my colleague, Senator Lou Correa, and with the man who's really my partner as legislative leader, who you hear from in a few moments. John and I, together with the governor and our colleagues, were, I guess, fortunate and maybe unfortunate in a way in not the time we picked, but the way the time picked us to lead during these most difficult times. And John was a great assembly speaker, and I was privileged to serve with him, so thank you, sir. Appreciate it. So I must say that when I arrived here today, that I thought that I was attending a conference on the use of low-emission strollers, but then I found out that it was about a broader transportation topic, but I know where I want to head right after this conference. It is the Matterhorn without a stroller. I want to talk for just a couple of minutes, if I might, about this last legislative session around transportation. And I'll make it brief, but it's an interesting story, in my view, because it's a story of how to make lemonade out of lemons. It's a story of how in government it is important to do what you can with the tools that you have. Even if you wish you had other tools and could do it in a different way, your job, our job, is to be creative and make do with what we have. Now, what is the challenge? For years, the transportation community writ large has sought what we call a permanent source of funding for transportation. That's the key buzz phrase to me, permanent source. And for a variety of reasons, that permanent source, at least looking for some of the traditional ways of creating that source, was really unattainable. Certainly I believe that we ought to give local governments less than a 2/3 threshold to pass transportation bond measures. I believe a majority, or at least 55%, ought to be able to determine the future of their own communities, but that's not to be, because it requires a 2/3 vote in the legislature to put on the ballot, and it's tough when you touch that still third rail, or maybe it's the 2.5 rail now of Proposition 13. There was an effort to try to identify weight fees and to apply a transportation tax statewide, in part because of the recession, because we passed Prop 30, which was necessary to put the state budget in fiscal balance. There was no reality in trying to pass a statewide transportation tax. And so the answer this year, the imperfect answer, lay with the essential intersection between climate change, transportation, and land use planning. In 2006, of course, the legislature passed what is now the internationally renowned AB 32, the Climate Change Act, which requires our state to meet very aggressive emission reduction thresholds by 2020. Within that law, of course, is the somewhat controversial cap and trade program, which says that instead of taxing industries directly for the emissions they produce, we're going to set up a marketplace and allow the buying and selling of credits in order to meet a cap. And within the buying and selling of credits, there is the generation of a lot of public money. And then in 2007, when I returned to the legislature, I returned at the end of 2006, we passed, as Hassan said, SB 375, which was really a decades-long effort, not by me personally, but by many in the field who said, it's time we begin thinking and acting regionally. It's time we recognize that there are no artificial borders. Borders don't matter. The air quality doesn't all of a sudden go from good to bad or bad to average when you cross from one city or county jurisdiction to another. We passed the law, and it was done really by what I call a coalition of the impossible, the builders, the local governments, the environmental community, and the affordable housing advocates. And of course, it set in place a framework which said the state can set greenhouse gas emission goals when it comes to vehicle miles traveled. We will direct future transportation dollars to those projects which are consistent with those regional plans. And so you have now the framework between AB 32 cap and trade and SB 375 to answer, again imperfectly, that question of how we're going to create a permanent source of funding for transportation. Cap and trade, in its first several years, only applied to what's known, of course, as stationary sources, not mobile sources. And it has generated about $1 billion a year. But there's a big change coming, and it's received a lot of attention. And again, anything good in public life has to be a little bit controversial, if not a lot controversial. In 2015, fuels come under the cap. What does that mean? It means that cap and trade, that oil producers and the oil industry is now going to be subject to the same regulation and participate in the buying and selling of these credits. And what is the expectation? The expectation is, yes, there may be some increase in gas prices. Now, it's hard to say how much, because frankly, the oil market is such that it's always difficult to determine cause and effect when it comes to the rise or fall of gas prices. But as I've said, and you know how my environmental friends have always loved me for saying it, no one's liked me for saying it, is that isn't part of the point to price carbon-based fuels, to price them so that there's a disincentive to use them and an incentive to move towards renewable energy? Earlier this year, maybe because I was termed out and recognized that, you know, in my last year I might as well just sort of put my best ideas out there, whether anyone else thought they were good or not. I suggested that instead of cap and trade for fuels, we ought to apply a carbon tax. A carbon tax that would be more transparent and that would not confuse consumers as to the relationship between this cap and trade and fuel prices. Well, my thunderous speech at the Sacramento Press Club in February of 2014 was met with a thunderous thud. Not the first time in my career, by the way, that had happened, but it stoked an important conversation. And I created a controversy, and because of my title and power at the time, a little bit of worry that I might actually succeed. And so this is where we went from the potential bitter lemons to the lemonade, because as we approach the budget in May and June of this past year of 2014, the governor, of course, made it clear that one of his 2 or 3 budget priorities was to create a permanent source of funding for high-speed rail. And high-speed rail, I've been a proponent for a long time. I think it's a good investment. I think anything we can do to invest in public infrastructure that creates jobs, and I think the Central Valley is the right place because that's where the unemployment rate is the highest, that we ought to be bold and big and do it. We voted for it the first time, and I thought we ought to do it again, but I recognize a lot of my colleagues do not feel the same. So I said, how about this? What if we agree to the high-speed rail investment, but we take that cap and trade money that is going to grow exponentially because of fuels coming under the cap beginning in 2015, and let us create permanent sources of funding for transit, for intercity rail, for commuter rail. Wrap it up, okay? I said I'd keep it under 45 minutes. I don't quite know what the problem is. Long story short. too late, but it's an interesting story. Thank you. Hey, you're speaking next. You wait. Here's what we did. We combined high-speed rail, and we committed to create permanent sources of funding for transit, 25% for high-speed rail, 35% for transit, intercity rail, commuter rail, sustainable communities, and affordable housing. Think about it. If putting fuels into the cap generates $5 million, which is a reasonable estimate under cap and trade, 35% of that every year, permanent source for transportation and transit. Is it enough? Of course it's not. But it's better than where we were 6 months ago. And it's a base from which we can build together. So my message to you today is don't be afraid to be creative in finding any and every financing tool that you can, that we can, to make sure that we deal with the transportation needs of the future. They're enormous. We can't get there all at once. But let's just keep building, going, and we'll get there. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Senator Steinberg. We always appreciate your time and the fact that you would join us on a Friday. Much, much appreciated. At this time, I'd like to invite to the podium someone who's very familiar to many of you, Art Leahy, CEO of Los Angeles County Metropolitan Transportation Authority. Please give a big Friday morning welcome to Art Leahy.
Good morning. It is so good to be in Orange County. I worked here 8 years and lived here about 12 years. It's a wonderful place. You know, I've been in LA now for almost 6 years, and I must tell you that unlike Orange County, LA has more than one iconic building. Although personally, I like the Matterhorn a lot. One of my bosses is here, Director Jackie Dupont Walker is over there, one of the members of the board of directors. Good morning, Director. We are fortunate to have Mayor Garcetti, LA Mayor Garcetti, who also is the chair of the board of Los Angeles Metro. During his time on the board, about 14 months now, we've accomplished a few things. We have 5 rail lines under construction. Under his leadership, we've received 2 full funding grant agreements, a number of TIFIA loans. We're working on complete streets. We have a new bike sharing program. I want you to know that the mayor within LA County has taken a great deal of focus on building consensus within LA County. That sounds kind of simple on one hand, but it isn't. It's a big county. There's as much regional competition between the sub-region and LA as there is sometimes between the counties. So I'm very pleased to be here with him. I want to introduce now to you Chair Eric Garcetti of LA Metro.
Thank you so much, Art, and a very good morning, everybody. What a wonderful turnout. Great to see you all. Thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this, and thank you, Art, for your leadership. Thank you to Paul and the entire board, and thank you to the great staff of Mobility 21 and all of you who make this work. You know, we are all lucky enough to be living in the greatest region, metropolitan region, not just in the United States, but in my opinion, on the face of the earth. If you look at the attention of the world economy, if you look at the natural assets that we have here, we have probably the greatest raw material for progress and prosperity of any place on the face of the earth. We are and should call ourselves the Western capital of the United States, the northern capital of Latin America, the eastern capital of the Pacific Rim. And if you look at the dynamism of the world economy, and the place that people continue to grow up from and come to, is certainly the Southern California region that stands for innovation, that stands for creativity, the most diverse collection of cultures certainly that's ever been assembled in human history. These things converge here. So in certain ways, I wanted to start with optimism because the problems that we face, the challenges that we have, come from a very good place. The reason why we have traffic is because so many people want to stay here and come here. I'm certainly not the mayor of a town that's struggling with its population cut in half or that's trying to get people to come here. We're trying to solve problems which reflect a quality of life we want to bring back to a region that continues to move forward. And certainly coming out of the deeper hole of the recession that we experienced than others, while we have a deeper hole to dig out of, we're We're coming out of it more quickly than the rest of the state, and the state is coming out of it more quickly than the rest of the country. Our job growth per capita in this state is top 5 in the country, number 1 in absolute numbers. In my own city, we've have 40,000 jobs just in the last year that we've had, a drop of 2% in our unemployment rate. And a certain optimism that I haven't felt since I was a teenager, growing up in Southern California, when the Olympics came here, when this was a place that was kind of the promised land. After a couple rocky decades when people looked to California and wondered whether that golden dream would still be alive, you all have done the work. All the way from the Inland Empire to the coast, from the border all the way up to the Central Valley area. We have now, I believe, a moment for us to come together and to lead as one region again. And I wanted to start my comments there, even though I've been asked to speak very specifically, obviously, about transportation, because it is our moment to recognize that, Orange County stealing jobs from LA County, or LA County taking them from Ventura County, or us looking at the competition that has often divided us is a really bad way forward. I, as mayor, the first thing that I did in my own county was to convene the 87 other mayors for the first time. We've never done that. To sit down, to spend time to get to know each other, but also to spend time to listen to one another. To realize that when we act together, we are stronger. And we expanded that beyond just a single county. Recently, when Washington asked folks from different regions to apply for a manufacturing designation to be able to retool manufacturing, and we're seeing battery factories in Ohio, and we're seeing down south automotive innovation. Los Angeles area, the Southern California region, certainly was a manufacturing hotbed for many years. It's still the manufacturing capital of America. But we saw defense and aerospace beginning to look to other places. So we put an application with Ventura County, Los Angeles, Orange, and San Diego counties that I brought together with our academic institutions to say it's time for us to look at the next generation, whether that's SpaceX and the way that people like Elon Musk are rethinking our space program, whether it's looking at the way that our composite material manufacturing is changing. And when we acted together as a region, we won. Only 10% of the metro areas that applied got that manufacturing community designation from Washington. We got it successfully because we acted together. The same thing goes for transportation, and I couldn't ask for a more exciting time to be a leader alongside you in this region and in this country when it comes to transportation. And I'm really pleased that we're here today in Orange County, and thank you. I always love it coming to Anaheim. The last time I was here is when the Kings beat the Ducks and knocked them out of the Stanley Cup playoffs. So thank you to my Anaheim friends for that. And particular thanks to Tom Tate. I don't know if he's here, but as mayor of Anaheim, he placed the bet that he would clean the LA River when they lost, not if. And he did come up and clean up the river. And the LA River has never looked better. Thank you, Tom, for that. But the topic of the day here, transportation, Orange County and Los Angeles, and then the other counties that border all of us, traffic doesn't care really where that line begins and ends. Economic development doesn't. Pollution doesn't. Public safety doesn't. It's not like, a car stops suddenly because there's a county line or a city line, or a criminal doesn't think of crossing it to commit a crime. The regional approach isn't just something that makes sense. It is the only way for us to move forward. We have the assets that I mentioned, but we also have the problem that traffic has never been worse. It's probably the number one concern for all of our constituents, for all of our friends and our coworkers. The billions of dollars that we lose every single year, the millions of hours that are wasted because we can't figure out a better way to move around. And we also are analyzing, I think, the causes of traffic better than we ever have before. The ways that housing is built away from job centers and needs to be consolidated. The way that the single passenger car today is such an inefficient way of getting around, something that we still need for a long time. But when you think about that 95% of the time a car is not driven, when you think that 94% of the space for cars, even in the peak of traffic, isn't filled with a car, and that 93% of the fuel we put into cars never gets to the tires, we can think of better ways now that the technological tools, the analysis, the ways that we can innovate are before us to think about moving forward. I think we're facing the most radical transformation probably if in a generation, if not of two, of the hardscape of the transportation landscape here. But we're also facing, I think, the most radical transformation of the way we think about transportation in our lifetimes. At least since the freeways changed the paradigm back then the radical new paradigm of how we would get around the region. If you think about young people and you see the rite of passage that those of us who grew up in Southern California, turning 16, you couldn't wait to get your own car. I've been foster parents as teenagers who, when they turn 16 and it reflects their peers, they don't really care as much about getting that license. Fewer and fewer of them want that. They embrace public transportation in a way that many of us did not, although I rode the bus every single day from 7 years old to 16. We are seeing people look at new modes of transportation, whether it's bikes and the tough work that has to be done on bike lanes, and continuing to put them out there, but being flexible enough about making sure that they work. About building out a transportation that links not only within counties, but between counties. The commuter rail options, the high-speed rail. There is a willingness, not a uniform plan, but a willingness that I haven't felt in a long time among Southern Californians to at least try and experiment. The hot lanes that we put on the 110 and the 10, which had the usual chorus of opposition that we face when we try to innovate, now has died down to hardly a ripple. In fact, other freeways are lining up saying we want that too. When we see the way that we go to voters time and time again become so close at a 2/3 or get over the threshold for people saying, please tax me to build out something better for both our roads and our transportation, we're feeling that paradigm change. People are, as I mentioned, embracing, in some cases, congestion pricing, ride sharing, public transit, and they get the importance of expanding mobility options, as well as doing better urban planning, so that as we build along these lines, we can tie our pollution reduction and our greenhouse gas reduction and our affordability and our transit along the places where we have mixed-use development. No longer are we the Southern California of living in bubbles, whether that's our community, our county, our job, the place we shop, the place that we live, the place that we work. We're increasingly looking to integrate. And to me, that's a very exciting moment. So where do we go from here? And how are we leading? And I think the excitement that we feel here is mirrored when we look at ourselves from outside eyes in Washington. Certainly my conversations with my good friend, the Secretary of Transportation, Anthony Fox, who himself was a mayor in Charlotte. When they're looking for good news stories, they're calling us region. When there's extra money in Washington for the first time, we're not an afterthought, we're the first thought. And they're saying, hey, did you know there's excess grant money or loans? And we want you to think about what you can do to accelerate things forward. And we've seen that people understand the connection with jobs, and that the top priorities that I have, certainly as a mayor, to increase our city services, to get more jobs, and to build out an infrastructure, that they aren't three separate categories, that they link with each other. That when we build out transportation, that means an economy moving forward. That when it's done, it helps the economy prosper. And that when we do that, city services are easier to provide and a better quality of life. In Los Angeles County right now, we're undertaking $50 billion of transportation improvements. Measure R in public transit is the biggest chunk of that, about $10 billion to our airport, and I look forward to one day you actually can take public transit all the way into our terminals, and we took a historic vote after 40 years of failure in doing that. We were able to do that in my first year in office, and I point out when people always ask me, what's the biggest surprise about being mayor? I said how easy some of the big things are, and how tough some of the little ones are. In other words, we can be bold and do bigger things than I think we imagine, but we have to also have the tenacity to change the small things that are standing in the way of that sort of progress. Our port, we're spending $1 million a day with Mayor Robert Garcia in Long Beach, looking at a new partnership between Long Beach and Los Angeles to really sell one port, because our competition is in, again, Long Beach and LA together. Combined, that's 43% of all the goods that come by sea into the United States. I can go to a congressman in Maine, I can go to a congresswoman in Florida and let them know how many jobs are in their district out of America's ports here. Let's figure out a way to market together so that we win the business that otherwise would be up in the Bay Area, up in Seattle, up in Canada, or down in Mexico, so that we can keep that engine going. $50 billion is the biggest commitment that we've seen in a long time, and it's beginning to bear fruit. Next year, late next year, or the beginning of the following year, you'll be able to finally ride rail again from downtown Los Angeles to the ocean for the first time since the red car went defunct in 1950. Well, returning to the past, but we're doing it in a brave kind of next generation iteration, a next generation imagining of what can be. where we make sure at those stops that we have the bike racks and the shared bike. I'm pushing our MTA and others to think through transportation not just as multimodal, but as a commodity. I think it's not too far down the road when we will pull out our smartphones, not necessarily need to own a car in the world, have bought $100 of transportation, and depending where we are and what we need to do, we can take a shared bike out, we can get a taxi or a shared service like Lyft or Uber to pick us up. We can go take a car if we need it by ourselves, like a Zip car that's parked in a convenient place near us. Or you can get on transit, on rail, on Metrolink, on anything, all through the same app on your phone. In other words, you never have to stress out that you can get where you need to go. It's the opposite. Oh, I don't have to worry about parking. I don't have to think about the expense. I can get picked up soon, or move, or walk, or bike to where I need to go, because I know that that option is there and the technology is in place. When we look at the generation that we are doing, not just here locally for the economy, but nationally, as I mentioned, whether it's the 15 million containers that are moving through our ports, a number that by 2030 we expect to double. The multimodal national freight system is a key to us. And we have to look also at the interconnectivity of our larger goods movement as well. We're modernizing our airport because we understand that LAX is critical to the entire region. But we're also looking creatively to our friends at the Inland Empire and the east part of the county to see what we can do to transfer Ontario to local ownership. Something that I think is an accident of history that Los Angeles owns an airport in Ontario. Has to be for a price that I can defend, but not one that I make $1 off of either. One that will allow those who are closest to an asset to be able to develop it best for our entire region as well. What's good for Ontario and the surrounding areas is good for my city, and vice versa. You have a stake in LAX being modernized, I have a stake in Ontario being strong. The work that we're doing to extend our rail network, the work that we are doing throughout the San Fernando Valley, and the advocacy. As a mayor of Los Angeles, it's just as important to me to see, for instance, our Gold Line get all the way out to Claremont as it is for me to launch a new light rail line in the San Fernando Valley. Even though I don't represent both places, I'm only mayor of one of them. And the reason why it is because I have people who live in my city who work out there, and vice versa, those who live out there who work in my city. I recently went to Mexico a couple months ago for a trade mission. I brought people from the region with me. I know as mayor of Los Angeles, I hope you will take advantage of me in the way that I can open up doors sometimes for all of us. I can get a meeting with the president of Mexico, so that when a Pasadena company, again, a city I'm not the mayor of, is up as the final bidder to redo the Mexico City airport, or Rosemead company like Panda Express is going to look at opening 250 restaurants up in Mexico, with the food manufactured here in Southern California and exported to Mexico. By the way, that's, I think, how we're going to take over the world through orange chicken. I know that I can advocate for those entities there, and again, it will benefit my city and benefit this region. It's the same approach with transportation, and that's what I want you to hear most from us. There's a lot of details I'm not going to go into in this speech. I want to leave you with really a strong message, which is that our regional strength will be our strength for dollars, for planning, and for our economy. And that it is time for each of us to think of ourselves as a regional leader. We often have such demands. The organization that we chair, the chamber that we're heading, the city that we've been asked to lead, that we think I have to just fulfill those needs, and that's stressful enough. Without recognizing when we open those doors and we look to our left and we look to our right, that the strength we can bring to both our selfish needs in those entities as well as the larger interconnectivity will define what this region is able to do and how the world indeed looks at us. Whether it's Metrolink, which literally links us together, whether it's Orange County, which has its own initiative, and LA County, but those initiatives don't yet talk to each other about somebody who wants to cross our borders. Whether it's the way that we look at the planning of the area and the cap and trade dollars that will be available soon from Sacramento, and thinking very intelligently about advocating for those together and making sure that they go into the transportation programs, which are the biggest bang for the buck for what that money is supposed to go to, which is reducing global greenhouse gases. We need to make sure that we have a unified front. And we need to have a unified voice in helping this nation get back on track, quite literally. It used to be that our cities and counties in the 60s and 70s, when they were burning and facing issues of extreme poverty, would go to Washington, D.C. so that Washington could help save the cities. I fundamentally believe with the gridlock that we have now, with the failures that we face in Washington, that it is the cities and local governments and entities that will go to Washington to save Washington and to save this nation. Because for each of us right now, the frustration of partisan gridlock is unacceptable when it comes to the quality of life for our people. They need transportation bills not renewed on an emergency basis, but on a strategic basis again. If this country is going to compete with the world and attract investment and continue to drive people to be here in this place of dreams that brought us here or that raised us here, we need to make sure that we model what that means and that we come together across our partisan lines here, which I think we do remarkably well. And we have leaders in power from California on both sides of the aisle to say this is a California priority and this is an American priority, to rebuild our infrastructure. And at the state level, whether it's the sunsetting of P3 legislation at the state level before we've ever really done any successful P3s in 2016, we need to go to Sacramento with the same unified voice, saying it's time to experiment, it's time to innovate. We need our local transit agencies to think harder about how we get those things done. And we need to also be sure that the multimodal system that we all kind of know is out there, that we fail forward together, that we don't let our inability to experiment hold us back from finding the way that things work. Will there be failures? Sure. Will there be a bike lane that's the wrong place? Absolutely. Will we see maybe a hot lane that doesn't work? Absolutely. But if on balance we're the place that's pushing things forward, we will see greater successes, reduction of traffic, a quality of life that's improved, and a stronger economy for all of us. And finally, let me leave you with this note too. If we do that, I think it's one of the reasons I personally have supported the governor on high-speed rail. Obviously not at any cost, but at some cost. Because if we land these innovations here, just as we did with the aerospace industry 50, 60 years ago, this will be the hotbed of transportation innovation for the world. The companies that do that work, the manufacturing that we seek. I look forward to Los Angeles and the Southern California region being known as that place, just as it was known and is known as the center of entertainment industry, as we're here around Disney, as it's been known as the center of aerospace manufacturing. It's been known as the creative capital of the world, which we are. Let's bring that creativity to bear in our transportation, in the content we create, in the ridership experience that people have, in the rethinking of this landscape, so that we don't have to say, wow, that stuff was really cool on its own, but that I had 10 more minutes to spend with my daughter. I was able to make it to that date on time and fall in love with somebody who changed my life. I was able to go see a show in a different part of the region, and wow, wasn't that an incredible concert or play. At the end of the day, it's Aristotle who said that the city came into being to preserve life, but it exists for the good life. In other words, we came to towns way back when because we wanted to be safe, but that wasn't the end goal. The end goal was to find and to define what the good life meant for each one of us, to determine what that meant in a park, in a family, in a relationship, in a job, as an entrepreneur, as a government official, to find what the good life means. We cannot let transportation stand in the way of that. We have to transform transportation into being the way to it. So thank you to Mobility 21 for what you have done. I hope to be able to lead at the front of the line with you and also learn when we need to follow alongside you as well. Bring your ideas, take advantage of my time as mayor of the biggest city here, but also one that recognizes that we're just one part of an interlocked and interconnected region. Thank you for the work that you do. I look forward to a great decade together. Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's always wonderful to have the mayor of the great city of Los Angeles here in Orange County. One more round of applause for the mayor of Los Angeles. Now, before I introduce our next speaker, I'd like to, on behalf of Mobility 21, we apologize that the Honorable Speaker Emeritus John Perez had to leave because of a time constraint. We thank John for his participation and continued support of Mobility 21. Thank you very much, John. It is now my pleasure to welcome Assemblywoman Sharon Quirk Silva, the 65th District, which encompasses the great cities of Stanton, Cypress, Buena Park, Fullerton, West Anaheim, and La Palma. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Assemblywoman Sharon Quirk Silva.
All right, I know it is that time where you're getting like students. I was a classroom teacher for 27 years. So move around a little bit. Do that. I know you're getting tired. Go ahead. It's kind of snack time. But I am proud to be the assembly member that represents North Orange County and was a classroom teacher for 27 years. But even more proud that I've had the opportunity to work on transportation. So as a teacher, this group here is inside baseball, which means you are talking about things like RTP, SCS, things like SB 375. Let me ask you, do you think your neighbors all know what that means? So as we talk about transportation solutions, and we talk about things like RTP and VMT, we really have to open up that language to our friends and neighbors and community, to the public. Because as our great senators said, the solutions are going to be political, but they're going to be relying on the public. And so as you move through your day, as you talk about mobility, and as you talk about future solutions, it's really up to every one of you here, every one of us as elected officials, to speak the same language. So when we talk about SB 375, our neighbors and community really don't know what that means. But when you talk about sustainable communities, when you talk about walkable communities, when you talk about transportation, what it's going to look like in 30 years, they can relate to that. So I would ask you to open up that conversation, to talk to them about what you do, because you are the leaders in the transportation world. You understand what it's going to look like in 20 years, and breaking down that conversation and talking friend to friend, neighbor to neighbor, is going to get them to have the buy-in so that they can encourage their elected officials to make those tough decisions. And those decisions are tough. I was very proud as a local elected to be able to serve on SCAG and on the Transportation Commission there, or committee. And again, SCAG, who knows what SCAG means unless you're a member of SCAG? And matter of fact, that acronym, when I first told people I was on SCAG, they were like, what? So my point is that we need to let them know what that language is. But also at the state, I was also appointed to the Transportation Committee. And many of your information and legislation comes to us. So some of the things that we've been working on, or that we've heard before our committee, are everything from boating safety, to bicycle safety, to naming highways, to Uber, to Lyft. By the way, Uber and Lyft people, my daughters are 24 and 25, and said, Mom, please don't do anything that's going to ruin that. So you can see a shift there. But my point is there is changing. I'm so proud as the former mayor of Fullerton to really be able to see that we now have one of the first pilot programs on bike sharing. And these are very small but impactful changes when you can see 10 kiosks throughout the city of Fullerton. And as I drive by or walk by, I can see that the bikes are gone, which means someone is using those bikes. I've heard they're a little too heavy for a bike rider that likes to move around. But the point is that these are all new trends, and I really believe that we have huge possibilities to see how we're going to get our community members to change their habits. But it's really about a conversation. I would like to point out, I think some people have left, but some of the people I know who have made huge impact here in Orange County. We have Michelle Martinez, who is on SCAG. She might have left, but she has worked so hard in active transportation in Santa Ana. And so if you think about the demographics in Santa Ana, you will know that everything from making walkable communities to making sure that they're getting people moving, this is a huge shift. I know we had Art Brown, our Mr. Metrolink. I think he left from Buena Park. But this room is really filled with pioneers who have been working long before I got here, long after, in the world of transportation. And so we thank you, we welcome you, because we know your vision is going to get us moving. Thank you so much.
Assemblywoman. It is now my pleasure to invite to the podium for a very special moment in today's opening session, the Mayor of the City of Santa Monica, Pam O'Connor.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm really pleased to be here today to tell you about my Congressman, Henry Waxman. For decades, Representative Henry Waxman of California's 33rd Congressional District has served our region on key issues ranging from transportation to health and public safety. Congressman Waxman has long been a champion for transportation, paving the way for positive train control, clean air regulations, and the repeal of the subway prohibition in West Los Angeles. Prior to his election to Congress, Representative Waxman served 3 terms in the California State Assembly. Henry Waxman is a Southern California native and holds a bachelor's degree in political science and a JD from UCLA. Go UCLA. Remember that, Mr. Leahy? UCLA. Yes, UCLA. So our Congressman Waxman, it shows you how wonderful he is, UCLA grad. He and his wife, the former Janet Kessler, have a daughter, a son, and 5 grandchildren. And I'm really pleased and honored to present the 2014 Mobility 21 Lifetime Achievement Award to Congressman Henry Waxman.
Mobility 21 is proud to recognize Congressman Henry A. Waxman with the 2014 Lifetime Achievement Award. Congressman Waxman has represented California's 33rd Congressional District for the past 40 years and has been a leader on many issues. Congressman Waxman has fought for positive train control, clean air regulations that benefit our region, and the repeal of the subway prohibition in West Los Angeles.
Our friend Congressman Henry Waxman has served in the U.S. House of Representatives since 1975 and is widely regarded as one of the most respected and influential members of Congress. Congressman Waxman has built a distinguished career, truly a lifetime of achievements, as a longtime advocate for the environment, a strong voice for the federal role in funding transportation and infrastructure, and as a leader for LA County Metro's many priorities.
After the tragic rail accident in Chatsworth, California in 2008, Congressman Waxman, along with his colleagues Representatives Adam Schiff and Elton Gallegly, first introduced the provisions in the Rail Safety Improvement Act, which established positive train control safety standards requiring railroads that carry passengers or hazardous freight to implement the life-saving technology. A longtime champion of environmental and public health protection, Congressman Waxman introduced the first bill in Congress to stabilize the climate in 1992. Since then, he has continued his work to advance such legislation, most recently with the passage by the House of Representatives, the American Clean Energy and Security Act of 2009.
Hi, this is Senator Barbara Boxer, and I am so happy that Mobility 21 is honoring an incredible Congressman, Henry Waxman, with a Lifetime Achievement Award. For 4 decades, Henry has worked tirelessly in Congress to protect the people of our great state and our great nation.
Mobility 21 presents Congressman Henry A. Waxman with the 2014 Lifetime Achievement Award for his dedication and commitment to enhancing mobility, safety, and air quality in Southern California.
Unfortunately, the Congressman couldn't be here with us today, but really he's just so honored to have this award, this amazing award for Mobility 21, and I am truly honored to be here to accept it on his behalf. And we thank him all for his years of service and contribution to not just my district, not just the Los Angeles County, but our whole region and the state of California. Thank you to Congressman Waxman.
Thank you, Pam, very much for that special moment. Well, this has been a wonderful way to kick off a very important and hopefully fun and productive Friday. Please give another round of applause to everyone who's been at the podium this morning. They've done a wonderful job. We've now come to that important part of the morning where we can all stand momentarily. and stretch our legs. We're going to take our networking break before the concurrent breakout sessions start at 10:45 sharp. Remember, this is our largest expo with more than 100 exhibitors and nearly 1,000 attendees. Thank you very much. All the breakouts today will be held in the Magic Kingdom ballrooms on the second floor. We have wayfinding signs and ushers to escort you and assist you to your preferred breakout sessions. The expo hall is to your left as you exit. And if you're in need of some relaxation, the hospitality suite is open, and it's hosted by Rail Pros. Lunch starts promptly at noon. We'll see you back here. Have a great morning. Meet a new friend. Thank you very much.